Is everyone awake out there? Maybe, I don't know. That didn't sound very wakeful. I think we should probably get some energy in this room. What do you guys think? Would you like to get energized?
Yeah!
Yeah? All right, everybody stand up. Everybody stand up. We're gonna go into a practice that I like to begin my day with or inject into my day when I need a little boost of energy. And this is gonna give you something you can rely on this entire day when you get a little bit tired, when you get a little bit fatigued tonight, when you're partying on the dance floor at 1 a.m. You'll need this. So, what I'd like you to do is close your eyes. Everybody close your eyes. Let your arms go to your side, pinkies out, or in towards your hips. Root your feet into the ground. Feel the energy in the room. Feel the energy vibrating off of all the bodies in here. You're gonna take one deep breath in. Hold it. And let it out through slightly pursed lips. And now what you're going to do is you're going to take a nice, sharp, deep inhale through your nose, followed by a short, shallow exhale, again, through your nose or through your mouth if you're congested. And you're gonna do this 50 times, using your entire body to breathe in, chest, shoulders, arms, your entire musculature, and then you're gonna breathe out, nice, short, and shallow, 50 times. It's going to sound like this. So everybody stop on my count in 3, 2, 1, go. 10. 20. 30, come on! Put your body into it! 40. 50 and a full exhale, empty, exhale, all the way out, exhale, everything, hold, inhale, hold, exhale, back into your normal breathing pattern, 3 deep breaths, and 30 reps in 3, 2, 1, go. Come on, use your entire body. Every muscle forces that oxygen in and out. Deep breaths, hyper-oxygenate your body. Come on. 20. 30 and out. Breathe everything out. Completely empty your lungs again. Completely empty. Hold it. And in. Completely fill the lungs. Hands might be getting a little tingly now. Fingers a little tingly. Hold it. Back into your normal breathing pattern. And one more time for 20 reps in 3, 2, 1, go. Come on, everything you have for these last 20 breaths. 3, 2, 1, exhale, everything out. Hold it. And in. Keep your eyes closed. Your body should feel hypercharged right now. You've blown off CO2. You're moving more oxygen into the tiny little capillaries of your body. More oxygen than you normally be able to, because you've breathed off all that CO2. And now as you stand here with your eyes closed, your feet planted into the earth, I want you to find your power. I want you to find your power animal, your creature. It can be a dragon, a bear, a grizzly, a wolf, whatever it is that brings you life, energy, that inspires you right now. See it come to life in front of you. Begin to paint that picture in your mind. Use the colors that are exploding behind your eyes to bring it to life. See it. Feel it. It's right there in front of you. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What are its eyes like? Feel its power. That's your energy today. That is your power animal. And as it comes to life in front of you, breathe in. And with every breath, see that animal begin to appear inside of you, to fill your spirit, your being, your blood, your bones, your marrow, your joints. That animal is you. That is your power. And as you go through the day today, and you need to draw on a source of energy, I want you to close your eyes briefly and find that animal. Bring it out when you need it. And that's going to be your source of energy all day long. Screw coffee, screw smart drugs, just use your power animal. Let's rely on that. Close your eyes, connect with it. That'll give you the energy that you need today. One more time, connect with it, see it, feel it, sense it. One more deep breath in and out. And open your eyes. Smile. Who's ready for the Biohacker Summit? Yeah? Yeah! All right. I am a little bit nervous right now because I found out that I was going to speak to you first. And you can sit down if you want, or you can stand up, lean against the wall, do burpees. I don't care. Whatever makes you happy. Lunge, kneel, sit, stand. Do that all day long. It'll keep your body more full of energy. The reason that I was a little bit nervous about speaking to you today is because I'm talking to you about biohacking versus nature. And it may mean that I have to throw biohacking under the bus a little bit in my chat today. The reason for that is because I want to give you a realistic, balanced perspective. I certainly biohack. I have just about every piece of technology that exists in my home back in Washington State. But I also walk around naked in the forest and take showers with a garden hose in my backyard. So I certainly have a strange balance between living in nature and biohacking, and I want to share with you today how you can achieve some of that same balance in your own life. You can get all the advantages of biohacking without destroying your body and while maintaining a deep connection to nature. But first, I have to make you like me. I heard that's very important when you're speaking on stage, to have a connection with your audience. And because I'm in Finland, first of all, I heard that you like Santa Claus and you like ice hockey. So I figured what would be better than showing you a photograph of Santa playing ice hockey. That should score me some points. I also heard that you like race car driving and ski jumping. Rally car driving and ski jumping. So I've also found a photograph to appease you and show you that I do understand that connection as well. That's not me in the car, by the way, or on the snowboard. I also heard that you just absolutely love the Swedes, our neighbors from... Is there anybody from Sweden in here, by the way? I'm sorry. I'm about to destroy you. I heard that the Finnish just love your Swedish neighbors. And I'm actually not here to talk to you today about your Swedish neighbors or the dying pigs and angry birds. I'm here to talk to you about goats. Goats. Did anybody see this story? This is the goat man. This is Thomas. And Thomas is not a Swede. You're okay. He's from the UK. And he decided that he was going to biohack his body and turn himself into a goat to establish a better connection with nature. And this is how he did it. So this is Thomas playing with his goat with his bionic arms, and also he's got some special bionic limbs that he's made, some feet. I believe, any triathletes in here? Okay, I believe he just found like an aero helmet from triathlon to wear. I don't really think that that is a true goat helmet. However, it seems to be working for Thomas, at least most of the time. He's struggled a little bit in his connection with nature. This is a perfect example of how not to combine biohacking with natural living. And for any of you who have had thoughts about making a deeper connection with goats, I have other ideas for you, such as buying goats like I did, and drinking raw goat's milk and raising goats. But certainly becoming a goat man is not something I would encourage. Although I'm not sure. Timu may have that planned as the next level up from his biometric shirt. We'll see. Hopefully I didn't give him any ideas today. But what I want to talk to you about today, I think 10 would be a good number. 10 different ways that we self-quantify, that we train, that we track our bodies, and ways that we can achieve those type of things naturally, should we want to. I also love questions, and so I'll go through some of this stuff today. How many of you listen to my podcast or have read my book, Beyond Training? I know that I believe my book is actually here somewhere, either buried in boxes or out there. But if you have questions for me based off the type of things I do, fitness, biohacking, nutrition, etc., I'll certainly allow a little bit of time for question and answer as well as we go, because I love to interact with you a little bit too. How many of you self-quantify using biometrics like the Fitbit, things that you wear, things that track your body? Okay. I don't use those. I don't use a Fitbit. I don't wear a shirt. I don't have any device on my body that emits a signal, and I stay away from that quite a bit. There is actually some pretty good evidence out there when it comes to everything from a phone constantly transmitting a signal, a Wi-Fi signal, which is extremely high, to even the smaller Bluetooth signals being able to do things like disrupt the blood-brain barrier and cause low-level radiation. And actually, I am not convinced as to the health of constantly tracking and constantly quantifying the body. Now, I used to go out for runs looking like the goat man, looking like a robot with my huge computer-sized wristwatch, and this is just the normal, cheapo Timex watch that I have now, and my heart rate monitor and my foot pod and my power device and my stride counter. I don't do any of that anymore. Do I self-quantify? I do self-quantify. I wake up every morning, I put on a Bluetooth-enabled chest strap that sends a signal to my phone on my heart rate variability. How many of you in here track heart rate variability? Extremely, extremely important, valuable, and insightful metric to track. It lets you know about the strength of your sympathetic and your parasympathetic nervous system, so I can wake up in the morning and know what my body is capable of doing that day. But that's 5 minutes, okay? I do that 5-minute measurement, and then I'm done. And the reason for that is because I'm aware, I'm cognizant of the frequencies that I'm constantly exposing my body to. For example, my Wi-Fi router is never on in my home. I don't have that actual signal transmitted through my home. I use a metal shielded Ethernet cable that was a pain in the ass to get installed in every room in the house, and now whenever I use the internet, I connect via that Ethernet cable into my computer to eliminate those Wi-Fi signals. I have one of those fancy standing desks, but rather than getting a motorized treadmill that emits this electrical pollution and these signals all day long, I just have a basic treadmill that only moves when I walk on it. It's a manual treadmill. My desk, this is going to sound really old-fashioned, like I live on Little House on the Prairie, but rather than me being able to push a button to make my desk go up and down, I have to use a hand crank. Again, because I'm trying to eliminate my exposure to a lot of this electrical pollution that, frankly, many biohackers get exposed to all day long and still deal. How many of you in here deal with things like brain fog, insomnia, waking up earlier than you'd like to? Nobody wants to raise their hand. They don't want to be that person. But I'll raise my hand because I have had to deal with a lot of these things because I've gone off the deep end and I've really gotten on the self-quantification bandwagon before. Now that I'm off that bandwagon and I'm trying to live more naturally and be very cognizant of the number of electrical signals that I expose my body to during the day, I feel a lot healthier. And I would encourage you to think about that too. How many things you actually need? Like, do you need a Fitbit to tell you how many steps you're taking during the day? Yeah, but maybe for a month. Do you need a sleep tracking device to tell you how many sleep cycles you're getting and how deep your sleep is, your sleep latency, your sleep respiration, all these parameters that are actually very good to know about your sleep cycles and what you're doing in life that is affecting your sleep cycles? Yes, but maybe not your whole life, right? Like maybe you're using that to check in every now and again to see how habits that are in your life are affecting your sleep. But don't feel as though you need to be married to these devices 24/7, because you don't. You can use them as tools, not as crutches. And by the way, I want to share with you a super duper secret tactic that I've found that actually tells you a ton about your heart without using any device whatsoever. It's really difficult to learn. It's called finding your radial pulse right here and checking your heart rate. So anybody ever done that before? It's super duper high tech. It's very difficult to learn. Here or here. So just a tip for you. It's a joke. It's a tough audience today. You guys need some more coffee. All right. How about this? Hypoxic training. I do quite a bit of this, okay? So I use like a hypoxic air generator. I use a resisted breath training mask. I use a snorkel when I swim with a resisted breath training device on the end of it. It's called a swim snorkel with what's called a cardio cap. So when I do cold thermogenesis, underwater swimming, things like this, when you expose your body to intermittent bouts of hypoxia, you get a release of nitric oxide synthase. It's fantastic for your cardiovascular health, fantastic for feeding your brain new capillaries. There's a lot of benefits to hypoxia. There are even what are called static apnea tables. And these are either oxygen deprivation tables or carbon dioxide deprivation tables that you can use to, for example, hold your breath for 1 minute and then breathe easily for 2 minutes. Then hold your breath for 1 minute and breathe easily for 90 seconds. Then hold your breath for 1 minute and breathe easily for 60 seconds, etc. And this type of breath training practice is actually incredibly useful. What we just did was a little bit of a form of breath training. We hyperoxygenated, we breathed off CO2, we opened up capillaries, we got a little, you felt that tingling. That was a dump of nitric oxide, the same as you would get here in Finland if you went from a sauna, from the cold into the hot, or the hot into the cold, and you get that itchy feeling on your skin, if you had that before. It's a little bit of a nitric oxide release that opens up blood vessels. You can get the same thing through hypoxic training. And I recommend that if you don't, at some point during the week, engage in some form of oxygen deprivation, that you consider adding that to the protocol that you walk out of here with today. Whether it be breath holds, a weekly underwater swim workout, the use of one of these fancy elevation training masks, etc. However, like I mentioned, there are things like static apnea tables and ways that you can hold your breath with no fancy devices at all. And as a matter of fact, when we were kids, we all used the straw, and believe it or not, a straw is a form of resisted breath training. So I have a power lung in the dashboard of my car. Has anybody ever used a power lung before, which resists your breath as you breathe in, resists your breath as you breathe out? Well, a straw actually does give you quite a bit of resistance. I just look like a little bit more of a fool. Maybe I wouldn't. I don't know what would look more foolish, using the power lung as I'm driving and waving at the person beside me, or a straw. But regardless, you don't need fancy technology like a hypoxic air generator or an elevation training mask or even a straw to get the benefits of hypoxia. Just Google static apnea table or go swimming once a week and do underwater swim sets, 10 by 25 underwater for as long as you can. Or Google the new workout that a lot of celebrities are doing now called the Laird Hamilton workout. It's an entire workout underwater with kettlebells and dumbbells and weighted vests, and it's quite a rush. So if you don't use hypoxia or resisted breath training or restricted breath training, I recommend that you do it, but once again, you don't need anything fancy. You can jump naked into a lake and hold your breath, and you don't have to buy the elevation training mask if you don't want to. Okay, so hypoxia, I love it, great biohack, but once again, you don't have to have fancy technology to do it. I just have to have at least one slide when I talk that shows a woman's ass. Sorry, I just have to do it. Electrostimulation. How many of you in here have played around with electrostimulation? You've seen the guys with the made-for-TV abs with the electrodes on each of the parts of their six-pack or their eight-pack or their 12-pack, or the ladies like this on TV with the electrodes on their butts, training, doing electrical muscle stimulation for weight loss or fat loss or spot reduction. How many of you in here have experimented with electrical muscle stimulation? fantastic way to train. Really, really good way to stimulate a lot of muscle fibers with very little joint impact. Okay, so for example, I was on Timu's Biohackers podcast recently, and I talked about a workout in which you can get on a treadmill and you can have an electrical muscle stimulation unit. It's called an EMS device. This is very different than a TENS unit, which stimulates nerve endings. An EMS device actually stimulates fast twitch and slow twitch muscle fibers. And what you can do is you can put the electrodes on your body. Okay, you can attach them to, let's say, your biceps or your chest or your triceps or your abs or whichever part of your body you want to train. You can put on a swimsuit and put them on your ass. And you can train that part of your body and do a workout simultaneously. So for example, one of the workouts that I'll do is I'll do a set of sprints on the treadmill where I'll do EMS on the upper body in between each sprint on the treadmill. So I'm getting upper body training for the upper body, cardiovascular training on the treadmill, and it's a really, really cool way to train. One of the reasons is because you get a huge dump of lactic acid into your muscle tissue when you use electrical muscle stimulation, and that big dump of lactic acid actually increases your acid buffering capacity. So it burns and it kind of tingles and it hurts a little bit, but it's actually a really, really good way to increase your muscular endurance with very little joint impact. And yes, you can do it on an airplane, you can do it in a car, you get some funny looks if the person sitting next to you sees your thighs twitching as you're sitting there in the chair. But ultimately, if you don't have an EMS device, it's a very cool biohack, especially for fitness. There's some really good research, believe it or not, behind EMS, and despite the cheesiness of the made-for-TV commercials on it, spot reduction of fat. So it's a very, very cool device. But believe it or not, when it comes to all these lactic acid buffering capacities, there's another super duper secret, extremely high-tech way to get a huge dump of lactic acid into muscle tissue. It's called isometrics. Basically, you can do holds. Holds for 30 seconds, 45 seconds, 60 seconds. One of my go-to workouts when I'm traveling is I'll slip into the airport bathroom, the one with the picture of the family on the door. That's only for the women who are changing babies' diapers. And I'll go in there and work out. And I'll do an isometric workout where I'll choose 5 different exercises and just hold them for 30 or 45 or 60 seconds. And keep my fingers crossed that when I walk out, I don't have some lady waiting there in a stroller with her 2 babies super pissed at me for taking up the restroom and working out in there. But isometric training, fantastic way to train. And there are some really, really good resources out there on how to do isometric workouts for a big, big release of lactic acid, huge amount of muscular endurance. Very, very similar results, believe it or not, to what you would get with these fancy newfangled EMS devices. So that's another form of training that doesn't really require much technology, right? It's biohacking versus just doing something that's natural that can get us results that are nearly just as good. So this is, has anybody ever heard of this stuff? Soylent? Lot of issues with it. Now granted, I think they're here. There's a company called Ambronite that's here, and I was talking with the person who formulates that, and they use a lot of like real healthy, real food-ish ingredients in something like that pre-made meal that has all the nutrients that you'd ever need in it to get through the day. Soylent is kind of something that a lot of biohackers in the US use. There are a lot of issues with it, as the name soy would imply. I don't know if many of you in here know about some of the phytoestrogen and the digestive enzyme inhibiting and some of the hormonal issues with high amounts of soy, especially soy that's in its like unfermented protein source. But these type of prepackaged meals, smoothies, shakes, etc., they're very, very popular. And I used to be a bodybuilder. I was sponsored by these companies that would send me meals in a can. It basically would make me shit out of straw all day long when I was consuming these pre-made meals. But we are led to believe that a lot of these biohacked meals are healthy for us, when in many cases they're not. And believe it or not, there are ways that you can hack getting every nutrient that you would ever need to support you for hours and hours into your body using another extremely high-tech method. It's what I call a big-ass salad. Okay? Real food. I understand that bars are fun, smoothies are fun, shakes are fun, but what we did last night, how many of you were there last night making the meals that we made? How many of you in here do bars and protein shakes and pre-made smoothies and a lot of these biohacked meals? Nobody. A few of you. Nobody wants to raise their hand now because they know about the shitting out a straw part. What was more fun? What was more enjoyable? What was tastier? What felt like it filled up the body with more nutrients? It's the real food. There's something about the synergistic effect of real food that's been bathed in sunlight that makes you feel so much better than a lot of these bars and shakes and smoothies. But I run into, especially in, it's more in the US because I go to conferences more over there than I do over here in Europe. But I kind of sense that there's a lot of kind of the same thing going on. It's so convenient and it feels so cool to be able to eat your meal out of a bar or a smoothie or a shake. But the fact is that eating real food is part of being a biohacker. Figuring out how to take real ingredients, how to go out and forage your own food is great. So every morning I make a smoothie. Some of the smoothie has cracked cell wall chlorella and super greens and vitamins and curcumin phytosome and all these biohack nutrients in it. And part of it is me walking around naked out in the forest, gathering little leaves that I find and plantain and nettle and mint and throwing that in there too. So as a biohacker, I would encourage you to find that balance. Unless you have to eat a bar, unless you have to have a shake, unless you have to have a smoothie, just eat real food. Real food. Find that connection with nature. Okay, another technology, another biohacking technology that I use quite frequently are these space-age boots. Has anyone ever worn these boots before, these compression boots? The ones that I use are called Normatex. They use what are called gradated compression. So you put them on your legs after you've spent a long day doing something like this gentleman is doing, standing up, getting out of a chair, using a standing desk, etc. You'll find that your legs get heavy. You'll find that a lot of cases you'll get like this kind of like Las Vegas waitress varicose vein type of look from years and years of doing that. And so compression comes in quite handy. Right now I'm wearing compression socks. A lot of times I'll wear compression tights. There are compression tights that you can put ice into for an even added nitric oxide and muscle recovery effect. There are compression shirts. There are shirts that actually support posture. There's all sorts of ways to use compression. It's one of my favorite little biohacks during the day is to wear compression and to also use things, especially anybody in here like a runner. We've got a few triathletes I know because you raised your hand earlier with the Goatman helmet stuff. Swimmers, cyclists, weightlifters. Nobody in here exercises. Okay, I get it. I hear you. Anyways, though, compression is one of my go-tos. I'm in compression literally almost all day long, and I sleep in compression tights or compression shorts as well, because it is a way to hack your system, right? It's a way to hack your biology and to make the system smarter by giving the valves that are in your veins, returning blood flow to your heart, a little bit of extra help. And it really does help to pump metabolic byproducts out of tissue. So these boots are called Normatec boots. There's ones called recovery boots. But I'm constantly using compression. I would encourage you, hopefully you're taking some notes about little things to add into your practice, because these are the things that I use every day. I would encourage you to use this. But at the same time, you can get a similar effect from this super duper high-tech move called inversion. Inversion. You can literally, if you're using a standing workstation, you can't afford compression, you don't want compression, you haven't added that to your hacks yet, you can literally just Google yoga inversion poses, right? You can get into one of these handstand poses like we did in the forest. Do you guys see that photo that Timu put up of us in the forest? So I mean, literally, you can drop from your, I'm just gonna do this just to look cool on stage for some photo ops. You can literally drop from your standing workstation during the day, you can get up, you can get into some kind of a stand against a wall, headstand, handstand, etc. It takes about 2 minutes or so for things to start to drain out of your legs. You can use these compression shirts for a similar effect on the upper body. But compression is another very, very cool way to do things. And an inversion, which is what I just did and what these yoga inversion poses are, they achieve a very similar effect. So work in compression and work inversion into your day. Okay. Next, we've got cryotherapy. Cryotherapy. That guy looks like he's supposed to be wearing gloves. So you're supposed to. The first time I did cryotherapy, it freaked me out. I wore the gloves and I wore the little booties, and I walked in there in like just my cotton underwear, and I got into the cryotherapy chambers. Anybody in here ever done these cryotherapy chambers? They're really cool. They drop the temperature down. You stand in there for 3 to 5 minutes. They get extremely cold. But I walked out and I looked down and my dick was all frosted. But did I just castrate myself? It's important that you pay attention to the instructions and put on all the gear that they recommend. Fortunately, I recovered. But these cryotherapy chambers are kind of all the rage now, and they're a great way to get that dump of nitric oxide, to get a decrease in inflammatory cytokines, to get an increase in what's called brown fat production, which is a very metabolically active form of fat. Fat cells normally don't disappear. They normally just shrink until you refill them with energy, which is why it's so easy to gain weight after you've lost weight. But if you convert fat into brown fat, it's far less likely for that to happen, and you do that with cold. The presence of cold combined with a decrease in inflammation, like an anti-inflammatory diet, is an extremely potent fat loss tool. But these cryotherapy chambers are not necessary to do that. Okay, I don't have a cryotherapy chamber. What I have by my house is a very, very cold pool along with a cold river. And as a matter of fact, and this is one of my complaints about cryotherapy, you don't get the actual hydrostatic pressure of water against your skin and your limbs when you're doing cryotherapy. And so if you're trying to go after some of the recovery effects of compression and some of the decrease in what's called the backflow of lymph fluid when you get exposed to cold, then these cryotherapy chambers aren't necessarily the best way to do things. And cold water, even though I know it's got a little bit more of a fear factor, scream factor, shrinkage factor associated with it, it's actually a much, much better way to do things. So cold water, you don't need a cryotherapy chamber. All you need to do, and this is a challenge I always issue to folks, if you're a true biohacker, if you're really trying to build stress resilience, if you're really trying to increase your body's ability to be able to handle anything, don't take a warm shower for the next 30 days. Only use the cold water side of the shower. That's my challenge to you. Walk out of here. If you can do that, you'll build up an enormous amount of stress resilience over the next month, and you'll get a lot of these benefits of cold thermogenesis, and you won't have to pay 70 to 80 bucks to visit a cryotherapy sauna. Speaking of saunas, we've also got saunas. I have an infrared sauna. Okay, so I have this protocol that I do where I take high-dose niacin about 30 minutes prior to a sauna session. And what the high-dose niacin does once the body heats up is it causes lipolysis of fat cells. So now you know about 2 ways to make fat cells either disappear or transition to a new type of cell. Cold therapy, which converts white fat into brown fat, or the combination of niacin and heat, which actually lyses fat cells, breaks them apart, and destroys them. So it's very, very difficult to achieve fat cell apoptosis or fat cell death, but this is one of the ways that you do it. So I have a sauna in my home. I use an infrared sauna, like a low EMF infrared sauna. I preheat it, take high-dose niacin, get the body very warm with jumping jacks, running, whatever else I want to do for exercise, then get in the sauna for 20 to 30 minutes. And I'm sure that you've probably seen the research, since you're in Finland, of the new Finnish study on the drop in blood pressure, increase in cardiovascular health, significant increase in longevity from sauna exposure. And there are some very, very cool other benefits from doing a sauna. But believe it or not, you don't have to have a sauna to get a similar effect, because all the it's not. Infrared is a little bit different because it penetrates deep into the body, and you get a heating from the inside out. But for a dry sauna or a wet sauna that's simply heating the body, that's heating your external environment, you can take high-dose niacin, you can put on a shitload of clothing and go for a run, or go to the gym and hop on the bicycle wearing 3 layers of cotton. Okay, this is what I used to do when I would train for Ironman Hawaii, and I didn't have a sauna, and I didn't have a way to heat up my body, and it was October in Washington State, and there was starting to get snow on the ground, and I couldn't train for the heat in Hawaii. I would just put on a bunch of clothes and exercise, and frankly, you can achieve a very, very similar increase in heat shock protein, increase in nitric oxide, increase in blood flow, increase in resilience, fat cell lipolysis if you pre-dose with niacin beforehand by just going out and exercising with a lot of clothes on. So once again, you don't have to have access to this fancy, expensive biohacking equipment to get some of the benefits of this biohacking. Yes? The dose that I'm using is only about 1,000 milligrams because I'm using a different form of niacin. Normally, it's called NiaSafe. It's made by Thorne. And a normal niacin you'd want to use closer to about 3,000 to 5,000 milligrams. But the problem is with using a normal niacin, you get kind of an unpleasant flushing and tingling effect. This Niasafe uses it's a different molecule of niacin, and I don't recall the actual nomenclature, but if you were to Google Niasafe, you'd see the type. And there are some other companies that make a similar product. So I use about 500 to 1,000 milligrams of that. You want to get it into your system about 30 minutes prior, and you will sweat significantly more when you use this niacin. Okay. Another thing that seems to be catching on quite a bit these days is the combination of vibration and also rebounding. Have any of you in here ever used a vibration platform or done like trampolining or rebounding? A lot of cool benefits that show that, for example, when you bounce and you rebound and you get vibration in between weightlifting sets, you recover faster and you're able to lift more weights. You also get an increase in lymph flow, you get an increase in blood flow. There are a lot of really cool effects. A lot of people will start off their day with something to increase lymph flow, to increase blood flow, to turn on the digestive juices, and they'll do so using one of these vibration platforms or using like a mini rebounder, like a trampoline. I'm a fan of both of those approaches for getting things moving in the morning. However, there is another extremely high tech. I'm going to actually show you how you can biohack your body. If everybody stands up, go ahead and stand up. Thank you. So if you want to save some money and not buy a vibration platform, it's very complex. There's a couple of steps. First you go like this, then you go like this. It's called a jumping jack. And you can start off your day with 100 jumping jacks and get the same effect as a vibration platform or a trampoline. We're not going to do 100 jumping jacks, but if you start off your day, and that's actually, I don't use a vibration platform or a rebounder. I literally get up and do 100 jumping jacks. And if you time that after a cup of coffee, it helps quite a bit with the morning poo as well. Okay, next we have blue light. One of the manufacturers of a device that I use quite frequently when I travel, the Valkey Human Light device, they're here, and that's the device that goes in your ear and stimulates the photoreceptors in your ear with light to normalize your circadian rhythms or to adjust your body for a new time zone. Blue light boxes for seasonal affective disorder and also for adjusting your body to a new time zone. That's another way that you can use blue light. A little less portable. You put it on a desk and you stare into that light for a certain period of time. A lot of these saunas now, they're coming, like the sauna that I use, it's got blue light in the top, so I can go in there in the morning and just bathe myself in blue light in the morning. And that's kind of the rule. You generally do blue light in the morning and red light in the evening to help out with your circadian rhythms. Now, there is another way though, and I find it's kind of strange. I find that there are a lot of people in our techie biohacky community that kind of have pasty white skin, low blood hydroxyvitamin D levels. And a big part of that is because sometimes we rely too heavily on these blue light devices when the biggest source of blue light on the planet, the sun, is right there in front of us when we get up. Okay, so if you have the ability to get out into the sunlight for 15 to 20 minutes in the morning, it's one of the best ways to keep your circadian rhythm aligned every day. I'm not saying not to use any of these other devices, but if you have to choose between them and sunlight, okay, I know this is a little bit woo-woo, it's a very difficult concept to grasp, but go out in sunlight, right? If you have the option to use a grounding mat or an earthing mat, or go outside and stand in your bare feet, go outside and stand in your bare feet. If you have the option to use a vibration platform versus forcing your brain to tell your muscles to move and do jumping jacks, do jumping jacks, okay? Start to think in that manner, okay? Use the technology to hack your body when it comes in handy and when it's going to increase your efficiency or decrease the amount of time that it takes you to do something, but don't forget nature. It's so important. Today, at some point, set a goal for yourself. I know we're going to be in here. I know there's a fantastic speaker lineup once you go through the painful process of getting through me. But find a way to get outside at some point today. 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever. get out in the sunlight. Even if it's cloudy, you're still getting a lot of that blue light exposure. And I shoot for 15 to 20 minutes. Typically, I go outside in the morning for 15 to 20 minutes. Okay. The headband that Timu wears. He's going to be pissed at me now because I keep throwing him under the bus. This is the Muse headband. I've used it. I use the Headspace app. I've used heart rate variability while doing different forms of meditation like box breathing and transcendental meditation. Played around with a lot of these devices that either monitor your brain waves while you're meditating or else walk you through a meditative process using technology. How many of you in here meditate with technology? Now, it's not a bad way to learn how to meditate, but it does return to one of the things that I opened with, and that is how many times during the day are you exposing the cells, your neurons, the tissue in your brain to some kind of Bluetooth or Wi-Fi radiation or signal? How many times are you connecting electricity to your body? Electricity, by definition, is going to create positively charged ions. Your cells, your cell membranes operate at a voltage of 70 to 80 millivolts. Once you dump a bunch of positive ions into your body and drop that millivolt potential down to 30 to 40 millivolts, you're going to inhibit some amount of cellular metabolism. And if you do that over and over and over again throughout the day, and if every single meditation session that you do is reliant upon your phone or some other device, it's just one more way that you're potentially taking your body, an electrical machine, and putting it in a state where it might not function optimally, as ironic as that may seem, because the meditation is supposed to be really good for you. So, one of the forms of meditation that I do most often of all the different forms of meditation that I do, it's extremely, extremely technological. I've been doing it since I was a kid. The technology has actually existed since I was a kid. It's called sitting in nature. Sitting in nature. Actually, in America, we have this thing. I know, it's earth-shattering. We have this thing called a sit spot, right? The Native Americans used to do this sit spot. You go out in nature, you sit down. There's no devices, okay? There's no fancy cable extending from your ass all the way back to your home where you walked out and it's going up your back and onto your head. You just sit down and you listen and you look and you feel and you smell and you just sit there for 15 minutes. 20 minutes if you want a little bit of extra biohacking, okay? It's called a sit spot. And you feel amazing afterwards. All your senses open up. And then you walk to your job or you walk to the mall or the shopping center or the grocery store and everything leaps out. Colors are brighter and things smell differently and you notice things and your peripheral vision is better. And it's an amazing way to biohack your body. It's free, it's cheap. There is a blade of grass, even if you live in the city. That little blade of grass growing up to the sidewalk, that's wilderness. Okay, you can find a way to do this anywhere. You can find a way to do this anywhere. So that kind of leads into what I want to finish with before I take a few questions from you guys, is this idea that, yeah, we can certainly turn ourselves into the goat man, right? We can find a way to make our bodies better or tweak our bodies to make them what we want them to be by putting on a spiky helmet and these cheesy bionic limbs and having all this connectivity and so that we can go and follow the goats around or whatever it is that we want to do, okay? Or we can just be people, like my son's here playing with our goats at home, and just live in nature, right? Just get out in nature. Find that connection. Look at life through the lens of what is natural and healthy and safe for my body, what is convenient and efficient, and then make an intelligent decision, okay? There are some things that are gonna be healthy and some things that aren't. And ultimately, that decision is up to you, and you can rely on people like me and research on PubMed to see what's healthy and what isn't. You know, what has caused disruption in cellular activity in rats and mice and what hasn't. Okay, what makes you look like a complete idiot walking your ass off in the mountains with a helmet on like the goat man, and what's just natural and doing like you would have done if you were a child, you know, breathing through a straw and holding your breath and jumping into cold water and doing all these other things that sometimes we forget how to do. So that being said, I have a few last things for you. Step one, to get more, you can buy my book. I think we have 50 copies here. I'll sign it for you. It's 450 pages of biohacking and natural living. Okay, that's here somewhere. I sent them here from America, so it's either here or on a boat somewhere. Step 2, I have a website, bengreenfieldfitness.com. It's all free. Okay, I work my butt off producing articles every single week. I record podcasts, I do videos. It's all free. It's all on my site. I love to teach. I love to learn. I love to spread as much knowledge as possible. So follow my site if you can. And then I created a website for you because I've written a lot of articles about these things like hypoxia, electrical muscle stimulation, compression, vibration, and I have different articles. So what I did was I found some of the better articles that I've written on each of these topics, and I put them at bengreenfieldfitness.com. The URLs, I just realized. bengreenfieldfitness.com/2015BS. So check out 2015 BS, which stands for Biohacker Summit, not anything else. And that should pull up for you, free resource, just a bunch of articles, as well as a link to Goatman's book on Amazon. So if you want some entertainment for your flight home or for later in the week, you can go read Goatman's book. So that being said, we have a few minutes, I believe. We have about 8 minutes, actually, for questions. So I can't see too well out there, and I don't know if we have someone here with a, actually I'll put this in my pocket, with a microphone, if we want to catch any questions on audio, or you can just speak very loudly and I'll repeat your question. So,
yeah,
yes.
I have a question. So if an average guy would start doing your hacks for, let's say, 15 minutes a day, how much more stronger and faster and more effective would he or she become?
I have no clue. It's very difficult to quantify something like that, right? Like how much stronger, faster you would get from doing whatever. 10 minutes of vibration, 5 minutes of blue light or something like that. Now I can tell you that it will be very tempting, especially for many of you who might be new to this whole biohacking thing, to walk out of here today very stressed because there are 20 different things that you need to try right away or else you are going to die tomorrow. Have patience, okay? Implement little things one by one. I went from eating Big Macs before my tennis matches and a Coke and supersized fries 10 years ago to living a pristine, clean, healthy biohack lifestyle now. But I cannot tell you, the percentage of strength or speed or, lack of brain fog or anything else that's going to happen from one specific strategy, right? That'd be very soft science.
Yeah, of course. How about your own experience? Because you have the Big Mac history and now you're living in nature, so any kind of delta between those two? I know this is difficult, that's why
So in terms of quantification, one thing that I can tell you is that when I use a pharmaceutical drug like an antihistamine, or I have a poor relationship, like a fight with somebody or an argument, or I'm not sleeping well, or I've been exposed to Wi-Fi a lot from either airplanes or my Wi-Fi router or whatever, the one metric that allows me to track that the best is the heart rate variability metric that I spoke of. And I know that my body is tuned if my heart rate variability is above 90. The only situation in which a heart rate variability above 90 would be a bad thing or be a sign that your body is doing something wrong is if you have just run a marathon or you've completely destroyed or overly taxed your parasympathetic aerobic nervous system. But in most cases, if you just use a heart rate variability monitor for 5 minutes in the morning, it can tell you a great deal about the efficacy of certain biohacks that you've tried. And you'd be surprised. You take a combination of melatonin and lemon balm before bed at night, and you see that number go up consistently by 3 to 4 beats in the morning. You know that your body is responding favorably to something like that. So, other questions? Yes, from one of you guys.
Nitric oxide, you mentioned several times hypoxia exercises, etc. Don't people also take beetroot juice before exercise to stimulate nitric oxide?
Sure, yeah, nitric oxide. There's a variety of supplements out now, and when I did my master's degree in physiology, my main paper was on nitric oxide, and at that point, nitric oxide and nitric oxide synthase precursors were an extremely popular supplement among bodybuilders and exercisers because of the pump that it gives you, right? So what we used to do backstage when I was bodybuilding is we would, and this was a ton of fun, you wouldn't believe what happens backstage at bodybuilding shows. We would eat a bunch of dark chocolate and drink copious amounts of red wine before we get out on stage and pose because of the vascularity that would impose. And that's one of the reasons that those particular compounds are associated with libido and they're like pre-sexual foods is because they cause this increase in nitric oxide. Arugula is similar. A watermelon is similar. Beet juice or beet powder is very similar. And so if you combine something like this with other things that increase nitric oxide synthase, like cold thermogenesis or heat, you absolutely can get like a little bit of a synergistic effect. So niacin can cause a little bit similar thing as well. So I'm a huge fan of that for like pre-race, pre-workout, pre-cold, pre-sauna, anything that causes a release of nitric oxide. I can tell you that most of the nitric oxide supplements out there are extremely overpriced, and you can literally just like make arugula juice, and that's one of the highest precursors of nitric oxide out there. So, but dark chocolate's more fun, along with wine. So, other questions? Let's go right here.
What are your thoughts on sensory deprivation tanks? Do you have any experience using them? Have you used them?
Yeah, in the past when I've used sensory deprivation tanks, I've gotten really bored just laying there. But I have not combined sensory deprivation tanks with any type of hallucinogen or THC or anything like that before. And from what I understand, the people I've spoken to, that is a way to actually get mental breakthroughs, creative breakthroughs, etc. when using sensory deprivation. Now, I do have a cold pool at home that I cover, and I put like the little floaty water wings that kids wear on my legs and my arms, and I'll lay there in the dark, in the cold, staring up at the top. And that's kind of a cool way to like do like the reverse sit spot, complete sensory depth, where you're not allowing anything in and you're just stuck there with your thoughts. So if you have like writer's block or you need to have a creative breakthrough, there's again, you don't have to pay the money to go to a sensory deprivation chamber. Sorry, I know the guy who owns the Biohacker Center is sitting here in the front. I mean, you can go lay in your bathtub with your eyes closed or a sleep mask on and kind of sort of hack it. But there are some things like the temperature of the water and the amount of minerals in it and the fact that you float and the darkness and everything that make a sensory deprivation chamber a little bit more convenient. So, yes?
Do you have any favorite routines, like using the infrared, the niacin at certain times?
Yeah, like combinations of different routines. Yeah, I mean, some of them I've already mentioned, like niacin or nitric oxide precursors plus cold or heat. So, yes, I do have one practice that I use quite a bit, except this morning when we were pressed. Like this morning, Ari Meisel, another speaker, and myself and a few other folks, and Max here, we did a workout this morning where we just did 2 Tabata sets. Okay, Tabata set is 4 minutes of 20 seconds as hard as you can go, followed by 10 seconds completely easy. Research has shown that if you want to squeeze a workout into 4 minutes, that's the fastest way to do it. Okay, but normally, in the morning, I choose only activities that stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, sauna, yoga, very easy walks in the sunshine, Tai Chi, deep breathing, because that's very stimulatory to the type of system that predominates in the morning. And then in the evening, when testosterone peaks, when reaction time peaks, when post-workout protein synthesis peaks, etc., that's when I do something hard, right? Like treadmill sprints or weight training or something like that. And that's really a daily practice for me, unless I'm pressed for time like I was today, right? Like today, I know it's going to be a long day. I just want to do something super hard this morning, so I just did it. But in a normal, controlled situation, you choose very easy, lightly stimulated, preferably fasted or with a little bit of caffeine in the system, parasympathetic in the morning, and then sympathetic in the evening, with the rule that if you finish the sympathetic nervous system activity within 3 hours of bedtime, it's not going to disrupt sleep. So that's kind of like a daily little habit that I do. So thank you so much, you guys. So here's the deal. I will be around if you want my card with my email address or whatever. Come find me, come talk to me, ask me questions. I should be here most of the day. Again, I have some books somewhere out there, and I love to answer questions and help you guys out. So any way that I can help you, let me know. Thanks, and have a fantastic day today. Let's have some fun.